I've been thinking about a lot this month, right? About new beginnings. The kind that happen after something hard, right? Like after change, after loss, after realizing you can't keep moving the same way that you were before. And I think every story we watched this month touched that in some way. Hey everyone, welcome back to the couch. I'm Caitlin, therapist who loves anime, and this is our monthly couch chat. So, this is the space where I sit down at the end of the month and I just talk through whatever's been lingering with me after everything that we've watched. And this month, I kept coming back to the idea of starting over. This month, we spent time with My Neighbor Totoro, Fruits Basket, and the end of Demon Slayer season one. And what stood out to me is, none of these stories really centered around like huge victories. They're quieter, more transitional and in between. And I think that's what made them feel so connected this month. They all felt like stories about what happens after life shifts. What happens when you're standing in unfamiliar territory and trying to figure out how to move forward? Totoro feels like such a simple story on the surface, but after watching it, I kept thinking about how much uncertainty the girls are actually carrying. We've got a new house, sick mom, lots of unknowns, and yet much of the movie still feels warm, playful, curious. And I think that's what really struck me, how children can hold fear and wonder at the same time. They don't fully understand what's happening, but they keep moving forward through it, still exploring, imagining, and reaching for comfort. And honestly, I think there's something, in that adults kind of lose. That ability to sit in uncertainty without needing everything explained right away. Fruits Basket really, you know, I felt like it really centered on the future this month and how hard it can be to imagine one when your past has shaped you in painful ways. Kyo especially stayed with me, this month because when you grow up being told, whether it's directly or indirectly, that you're a burden, it changes how you imagine what's possible for your life. And I think that's what made those conversations about the future feel heavier than they seemed. They weren't just about plans, right? They were about worth, about whether someone believes they're allowed to have a future at all. And then there's Ayama, right, trying to repair things with Yuki. And I kept thinking about how starting over in relationships can feel awkward, right? Not clean or easy, but still worth trying. And then Demon Slayer ended in such an interesting place, right? It wasn't with this final victory, but it was with training, recovery, repetition, and honestly, I liked that because so much of growth looks like that, right? Not a breakthrough, just trying again. And Kanao really stayed with me too because her whole story right now feels like the beginning of learning that she's allowed to have a voice, that she's allowed to choose. And that feels like its own kind of beginning, and a really important one. The thing I kept coming back to this month was Kanal's coin flip with Tanjiro. right? It was a small moment, but it was so important, right? That moment where someone is being reminded your voice still matters. Even if you haven't used it in a long time, that really stayed with me. Because I think a lot of beginnings start here, not with confidence, but with permission. So the thread that kept showing up for me was beginning again. And I think there's something important about that because beginning again usually means, something came before it, right? It could be something painful, something unfinished, something that changed you. And maybe that's why beginnings can feel so vulnerable. They ask us to move forward without fully knowing what's happening next. I think one thing this month made me realize is how often we underestimate what it takes to begin again. To trust again, to hope again, to try again. Those things sound small, but they're not, especially after disappointment, fear, or being hurt. Sometimes starting over isn't exciting. Sometimes it's exhausting, but it still matters. And maybe that's what connected all of these stories for me. Not certainty, just willingness. Willingness to keep going, to keep trying, and to believe something different might still be possible. This month, I kept coming back to this quote. Although no one can go back and make a brand new start, anyone can start from now and make a brand new ending. And I think that fits because none of these characters can undo what they've been through. Kyoi can't undo, his childhood. Kanao can't erase what shaped her. The girls in Totoro, they can't change the uncertainty that they're living in, but they can keep moving forward. And sometimes that's enough. Sometimes healing starts there, not in fixing the past, but in deciding what you want to do next. Something I've been thinking about this month is this. Where in your life might you be standing at the edge of a new beginning? Maybe it's something obvious, right? Like a new season, relationship, a new goal. Or maybe it's quieter than that. Maybe it's choosing to trust yourself again, to rest, to speak up, you know, to let yourself want something again. I think sometimes we imagine beginnings have to be big to matter, but a lot of them aren't. Sometimes they're just small shifts, small choices, and, small moments where you decide to try something differently than you did before. And those moments can change more than we realize. So, what have we got going on next month? Well, to start with, we are going to be watching Children Who Chase Lost Voices. Now, I don't know much about the film, but I've heard that it touches on things like grief, loss, and that already tells me that it's going to be a rich movie and there's probably going to be a lot for us to sit with. And of course, we are going to be continuing Fruits Basket and Demon Slayer. So, I'm really curious to see what themes start to unfold next month. But yeah, that's where I've been sitting, what's been on my mind this month. This idea that beginnings don't always come when we feel ready. Sometimes they happen because life changes around us, right? Sometimes they happen because something in us shifts. And sometimes they happen because staying where we are just isn't possible anymore. But I think there's something hopeful in that as well. The reminder that even after hard things, there's still room for something new. And maybe that's enough to start with. So, thank you so much for spending time with me on the couch. And on that note, rest easy, feel deeply, and I'll see you in the next session. Bye.